Hey there, everybody, it's Caitlin, your geeky girlfriend, and in today's video, I'm going to be making a little book out of all of the baby shower cards that we received. So we're going to be doing a little crafting, but while I'm hole punching all of the cards and getting them kind of organized, I thought that I would just come on here and talk about some of the things that nobody talks about during pregnancy. And I'm going to try and show you guys a few examples of some things that probably, again, nobody wants to talk about. And so come hang out with me as I organize our baby shower cards. We're going to make a little booklet out of them. I did this with our wedding shower cards as well. And what we're going to do is we're just going to organize them from smallest to biggest and put them in no particular order. We're just going to hole punch them, wrap some ribbon around them, put a little cover on it, and then I keep them on a shelf downstairs. So I'm going to do that. We're going to talk through, like I said, some things that people don't talk about during pregnancy, and specifically the things that were kind of unexpected for me. So this is going to be a little bit of symptom stuff, but also just random things. And some of this I've talked about in other videos. So I'm going to try not to hit the same content twice, but if you are a first-time mom, soon-to-be first-time mom, as you can see, we're still pregnant. Baby could be here any day. We are officially past our due date. Actually, as I'm filming this video, I'm actually filming this on Christmas. So we are 3 days past our due date. And baby could come at any time. So if you are a first-time mom, I want you to like this video. And if you are not a first-time mom, but you are maybe pregnant again, or you're seeing this video, drop your recommendations for first-time moms in the comments. Because when I was building my registry and when I was trying to decide on items and things like that, watching videos like this one were very helpful for me. And I know that there are other moms who feel the same way. So drop your comments, your must-haves, your all of the must-know things in the comments. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of this video. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and I talked about, so actually before we get started, if you're new here, hi, I'm Caitlin, forgot to say that. But also, I've done a bunch of videos in this little series. So the first video that I did a whole maternity clothes haul video. I did a try-on video. I've done multiple brand videos. I did a Shein haul, a Pink Lily haul, and then I did a full maternity clothes collection haul. We've done try-on hauls of all that stuff. We also have done lots of welcome boxes, baby boxes that you can get for free or close to free, and how to get them. Those all have separate videos. I've talked a lot in my cooking videos, my cooking series, about my gestational diabetes and tips and tricks for that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the glucose tolerance test in this one, just because that was something that definitely next time I will do differently. But, so I want to let you know that this video might not be all encompassing of all the things that I have felt, just because I've talked about some other things in other videos. So go check out my page for more, more kind of hidden. There are some that I didn't, talk about necessarily. And I also did a whole video on the symptoms that I have experienced during this pregnancy. Overall, I've had a very smooth pregnancy. We've had glowing recommendations, glowing reviews from all of our appointments, and that is great. Now that we're at the end, that's exactly what we wanted. So everything has gone swimmingly up to this point. And I say up to this point because she's not here yet. So I still take every day. Every day is a new day. Every day brings new challenges. So we aren't done yet. I will not like, I will not say, oh yes, we made it until she is here and in my arms and everything, and I do mean everything, has come to an end. Um, so let's just talk about like I said, I did a whole video about how my pregnancy has been, the symptoms that I've had, and overall, I would say my symptoms have been pretty mild. This is my first pregnancy, and I am carrying a girl, and I didn't really have any major morning sickness. I had nausea that would hit me multiple times during the day, not just in the morning. Sometimes it would hit me at night. So I was one of those people who was like, this isn't really just morning sickness. This can hit any time of the day. But I have up till this point had no vomiting, which I'm happy about because I don't love vomiting. I don't think anybody does, but I was happy to not have that experience. And I hate when I do this and then the cards like aren't all the same. Like they're the same length but not the same width, so then it gets weird. And also, if you're wondering why I have so many cards, this is everything that we got in all of our baby showers. I talked about in my baby shower video. We were blessed. I had a family shower, a work shower. My husband had a work shower, and I had a like a surprise little impromptu shower. So that's why we have so many cards. And we also got some stuff in the mail, so we have a lot of cards. But anyway, so my symptoms were pretty mild. I would say the one thing that I wasn't really expecting was the amount of swelling that I had on my legs and feet and ankles. They talk a lot in what to expect when you're expecting, when you go to the doctor, how your body just stretches, changes, all of that. And your ligaments, because of the relaxin hormone, your ligaments actually do get looser, and the ligaments around your bones and in your muscles all just relax. So I have not been able to feel my ankle bones for quite some time. And at first, that was really concerning to me, but it is totally normal. Same with my wrists and fingers. So I'm on the computer a lot. And so typing, my hands and fingers and wrists would hurt just by like the end of my workday. Like my hands and fingers were sore. Sometimes they were sore even just from like scrolling on my phone. So things like carpal tunnel, if you have that, can be more prevalent in pregnancy. My feet are swollen right now, and I've been sitting for most of the day. Now, when you sit, they recommend that you put your feet up. Don't have them like hanging down. So anything that you can do to put your feet up or prop them up is advised. Things like a wedge pillow, putting them on an ottoman, anything like that is recommended, because your legs obviously carry all of our weight, and when you're pregnant you have more weight. Not only do you as the mom gain weight, but you're carrying around weight from your baby, and your legs and feet just hold and retain all of that in fluid. And so I was a little bit thrown off by the amount of swelling that I had in my legs and feet. So that's the first thing that was kind of shocking. I would say I would say I had most of the traditional symptoms. So I ended up having some heartburn. I had nausea. I had constipation pretty much throughout the entire pregnancy. And if you struggle with constipation before pregnancy, it's going to hit you even harder during pregnancy. And it is not fun. So go ahead and start taking those stool softeners now, that fiber, that Miralax now, even if you're not pregnant, because it is not fun. And once you get to this point of 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 weeks, when the baby is taking up the majority of the space in your belly, there is no extra room, and it makes things like Thanksgiving and Christmas really uncomfortable because you're eating all this good food and you can't go to the bathroom, and that is really uncomfortable, and it makes you more uncomfortable like than some people already are. So the feet swelling was one. that I was not really prepared for. I would say that was the one that I wasn't really prepared for. Now, the other thing that people don't really talk about is, well, gestational diabetes does not get a lot of attention either. And it was something that kind of, it caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it. I never in my life thought that I would be considered somebody who had gestational diabetes. And so the glucose tolerance test is really important. And it's important to do that well, I guess. And there's, like, it's not a pass or a fail thing, but I do feel like there are things that you can do to not fail. And I talked about that in one of my cooking videos. But I definitely like take that really seriously. Some tips for that. And like I said, nobody talks about gestational diabetes, but it actually is fairly common. 1 in 9 pregnancies, the woman has gestational diabetes. I was fortunate. I had very low grade gestational diabetes, was able to moderate it and manage it with diet only. So I was diet controlled. So I have discovered a lot of protein shakes, protein bars, protein recipes. If you need recommendations for any of that, let me know in the comments, and I'll drop some of the things that I started eating pretty regularly to kind of, manage those sugars, get back on track if I was having a rough day, or if I had a sweet treat or something like that. And that's the one thing that nobody really talks about. So, like I said, gestational diabetes as a whole is not really talked about. They mention it in What to Expect When You're Expecting. It is considered a pregnancy complication. So keep that in mind as well, that once you are diagnosed with gestational diabetes, you then become a higher risk pregnancy. And there are certain things that it will automatically eliminate you from. For example, if you plan on having a hospital birth, you will not be permitted to labor in a tub because you are now considered high risk. So that was a little disappointing for me. And not that I wanted to do a water birth, but just being able to have the option to labor in a tub was something that I was really passionate about, because for me, hot water, showers, baths are so relaxing. And if I am having a bad day, the one thing that makes me feel better almost instantly is taking a nice hot shower. Not even a hot shower, a nice warm shower is something that makes me feel pretty much instantly better. And that was something that, a water birth or laboring in a tub is now off the table, because I have whatever the wording you want to use. We're still pregnant, so I guess I can say have gestational diabetes. So take your glucose test very seriously. The first one, you don't have to fast before. Like the regular one, you don't have to fast before. But do not eat right before you go. So you don't have to fast before, but I would recommend eating no later than 2 hours before your appointment, because as somebody who's had to monitor her blood sugar for the past 7 or 8 weeks, they want you to measure your blood sugar every 2 hours. So next time around, when I have to do my glucose tolerance test, I'm going to make sure that I eat at least 2 hours in advance of the test. Because what they do is they give you a sugary beverage, so it automatically is going to spike your sugar, and they want to see how your body is responding. I ate a snack that was carb heavy before I went to the tolerance test, then drank the sugary drink. So that is automatically going to elevate your sugars. And so then I had to go back for the 2-hour tolerance test, and you get your sugar checked 4 times in that time. And then if 2 of the 4 levels are elevated, then you get treated for gestational diabetes. And this is, again, something that's not widely talked about, but 1 in 9 women have gestational diabetes. And the course of action for your gestational diabetes is different based on your medical history, your weight, how your pregnancy has been going so far, if you have high blood pressure. There's lots of things that go into it. Like I said, mine was able to be managed with just diet, some diet changes, and, you know, they recommended that I try and exercise after each meal, or get as much exercise as I can, break up my sitting, you know, have protein with all of my snacks, etc., etc. And but the whole diagnosis really came out of nowhere. I was really bummed about it, especially at first. And it really, really hit me hard. And I learned a lot about protein, learned a lot about not even eating healthy, because I eat pretty healthily on a normal basis, but just about, like I said, balancing protein and just about blood sugar in general. So that's the number one thing that I would say is take the first glucose tolerance test seriously. Everybody will be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. You'll be fine. Take it seriously, because I kind of brushed it off and didn't really take it seriously because I had no reason to believe that I would get this diagnosis. And then here I am. I've had to check my blood sugar 4 times a day for like the past 7, 8, possibly even longer weeks. So learn from my mistake. The second thing I would say in terms of learning from my mistake is if you do have to do the 4-hour tolerance test, that one you do have to fast for. Be smart about your snack before the night before, or eat dinner with no snack, because that is what screwed. I genuinely believe that what screwed me over was I ate my dinner and then I had a late night snack before I went to bed, and I have a sweet tooth, so I was craving something sweet and I had a sweet snack before I went to bed. I genuinely believe that that's what set me off and what messed me up for the 4-hour test. I genuinely feel that that is what messed me up. So with that being said, again, take it from me, someone who failed and had to monitor her blood sugar. Like I said, take it seriously, but also like be very smart and very diligent about the snack that you have the night before. If you even have a snack the night before, maybe have like a slightly later dinner. So if your appointment is at 8 a.m., which most of the time they are, maybe you eat your dinner at 7 and then you don't have a snack and you just don't eat until after the appointment. Now, also, with that being said, you will feel like absolute garbage by the time you leave that appointment. I low-key wish I would have had somebody drop me off and pick me up, because I was so nauseous. I had felt so sick. I was like dizzy. I almost couldn't think straight or think clearly because I hadn't ate in so long. I had not ate in like 12 hours, and I went to Target right after the appointment and immediately bought a snack and like downed it because I just was so drained and I was like so out of it. I told my sister I low-key should not be driving right now because I felt so sick, especially after you drink the glucose solution. You will feel so sick. So definitely take a large bottle of water, have a snack with you that you can eat immediately after that last test, because I felt terrible after. And so I said next time I'm going to do that completely different also. Deterred me, but then like I've been able to kind of go through the process without too much additional monitoring. And I think part of that is because I, like I said, just made poor choices and could have been a little bit smarter going into those tolerance tests. But regardless, those are still not really talked about. Like gestational diabetes as a whole is not something that's overly talked about or something that you do see a lot of videos about. I'll just talk briefly about like the care options that were kind of given to me. So the first option was that, or the first, I guess, course of action is that we monitor with diet. And if I would have not shown success with that, then they were going to, sorry, I'm trying to get a hard surface so I can do my cover page. If I would not have shown success with monitoring with diet, then they were going to recommend a medicine called metformin, which for me, in my situation, my fasting reads, which are the first ones that you take in the morning, were higher. And so I was going to have to take metformin at night to try and control the fasting reads. And that was kind of told to us. So I'll also talk about the process for the diagnoses. So first glucose test, which I think happens at 24 to 26 weeks. So just over halfway through your pregnancy, you'll go in, you'll do the first glucose tolerance test. You drink a sugary solution, you have 5 minutes to drink it. They test your blood sugar 30 minutes after, and or maybe 1 hour after. They look and see if it's normal or not. I failed that one, so I had to go back for the 4 hour. You do a fasting read, and then they make you drink another sugary drink, and you do a sugar, they test your blood sugar every hour on the hour for the next 3 hours. So you're there for like 4.5 hours in total, and that's the one that we were just talking about. I felt really, really sick during that. Then, if 2 or more of your levels are higher than normal limits, then you are diagnosed with gestational diabetes. The first step for us was we had to go to what was called a diabetic education appointment. My husband went with me. They went over meal choices, smart carbs, snack choices, a schedule for eating that would help moderate the blood sugar. Essentially things you want to avoid. You don't want to avoid like major meals. You want to try and do like 3 smaller meals with 3 small snacks that have protein at each one. So you need a source of protein in each meal and snack. Then the next thing was we actually had to go for an ultrasound at the maternal fetal medicine department, and they checked baby, checked amniotic fluid, did a full like anatomy scan, checked her and did a weight measurement, estimation, all of those things. Everything was peachy keen, hunky-dory. Then, like I said, I had to check my blood sugar 4 times a day, fasting, and then 2 hours after every meal. Sometimes they will make you do a before bed reading as well. They did not have me do that one. So for me, the course of action was to monitor my diet, try and exercise with each meal if I could, and then just try and do more protein as a whole. But then the next course of action would have been to take metformin at night, and that would have helped regulate my blood sugar into the morning to try and control some of those fasting reads. But if you go on metformin or any medicine of any kind during your pregnancy, I would have also had to do weekly non-stress tests twice a week, which take 20 minutes. And I actually had to do one the other day, just because I'm past my due date. And they take 2 belts. They're going to hook up a Doppler to one, which measures baby's heartbeat. And then they have a second monitor that measures kick counts. So you just lay on the bed. They have 2 belts, and it takes 20 minutes. You can read, you can, do whatever. So my husband was there, and we were just carrying on casual conversation while I was hooked up to a blood pressure monitor, and my daughter was hooked up to 2 different monitors. It takes 20 minutes. Unless your baby does not respond the way that the baby needs to respond, then they'll have you go an extra 20 minutes. They'll have you drink some water, maybe have a small snack. I didn't have to do that because everything was normal. So we moved on. But I would have had to do that twice a week, every week for the remainder of my pregnancy, which would have been like, 16 or so of those appointments. And they recommend induction at 39 weeks if you take this medication. So we, as a family, decided, my husband and I, we really were trying to avoid taking that medicine so that we could try and carry the pregnancy as long as naturally possible and as long as my doctor would allow. Now, remember what I said, that gestational diabetes is considered a pregnancy complication. So I am still being recommended for induction if I don't deliver by a certain point naturally on my own. So we did hang on longer than originally determined, but we still, induction was still recommended. Now, in the United States, most of the time, they recommend inducing women anyway by week 41, because for whatever reason, that's just practice in the United States, especially if you're delivering in the hospital. The risks of staying pregnant outweigh kind of the benefits of staying pregnant, especially if baby is doing fine on the inside. There's really no reason to keep them on the inside, but also the longer they're on the inside, obviously meconium can get into the amniotic fluid. Amniotic fluid can start to leak. You can have a rupture of amniotic fluid. Baby gets too big. They run out of space. So there is just a lot of different complications that can happen the longer that you carry. But anyway, so those were the course, but some other courses of action. I have known women who have had gestational diabetes who have had to take insulin, have had to take a higher dose of metformin, which leads to, like I said, induction earlier on in the pregnancy. So there are different courses of action. Sometimes they make you take like insulin and metformin or whatever. So I'm trying to. So that's all that. But again, that's something that really nobody talks about. And I had to do kind of some of my own research when I was diagnosed because I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And that's kind of the big thing with pregnancy. You don't know what you don't know. And on this cover, I'm just writing like baby shower cards and my daughter's name and just kind of like, you know, I wrote the date or like the year 2025. I'm not going to show you what it looks like because we're trying not to reveal her name until she is born. But I'm just kind of like making it kind of cutesy, you know. So that I think is all I wanted to say about that. But like I said, if you are smart about your snacks and if you are doing a little bit better eating, see, I wish I wouldn't have done that because I just messed that up. I liked it better before. It's fine. This is what I get. It's fine. I hate when I do that. I hate when I like am crafting something and I'm like, oh, let me add this other little detail, and then I do it and I don't like it. Because that's what just happened to me. Oh well, I'm just gonna make my purple lines a little bit bigger, I guess. Let me finish this. But yeah, I consider myself a healthy eater mostly, but I did definitely give in to the cravings. I did definitely give in to the sweets because I have a big sweet tooth. And that was really hard to kind of have to cut out the sugar and cut out those fast carbs during that whole time of monitoring. So I want to talk about that. Now, let's talk about some more like logistical things that nobody talks about. We talked in my other videos, we talked about clothing and like obviously your pants don't fit, things like that. But the other thing that people don't really talk about, and it kind of goes back to the feet swelling thing, is your shoes. I was not expecting my feet to be this swollen, such that I really had to limit my shoe wardrobe to like 5 pairs of shoes. And that was also very hard for me. But with that, also socks. Like a lot of my socks didn't fit. And I did have to give in to compression socks. And that's another thing that people don't really talk about. Is compression socks and how like necessary they are, because that was something for me that I was like, oh no, I'm gonna make it through, like I'll just wear a looser fitting shoe. Yeah, no. I absolutely had to. It got to the point where I had to wear compression socks every day, especially on days when I was in the office, because without them, my feet would swell up, and it genuinely took about 3 days for my feet to go back to normal if they reached a point of excessive swelling. And I cleared it with my doctor. Everything was considered normal, but that is something that I wish I would have registered for or definitely bought more of in the beginning. Amazon has some. You can buy packs of 3. I did get some gifted to me from a colleague, but that is something that I definitely wish I would have got more of, because there were some days that were pretty miserable, not gonna lie, because my feet were just so puffy and swollen, and they actually would like start to tingle a little bit, and it was not a fun feeling. So definitely don't sleep on the compression socks. If you're looking for things to kind of buy for early pregnancy, you don't want to wait till your registry. If you get a gift card for somewhere, especially Amazon, like I said, after Christmas sales, Black Friday, depending on when you're watching this video, like, it definitely look into getting compression socks, because like I said, I waited, I think, a little bit too long to jump on that bandwagon, and I kind of regretted it. So the hole punching has begun. So yeah, compression socks with also shoes. Like, you know, it's wintertime. Now, our temperatures here in Ohio have been very, very mild. So this also is not normal, but I like have been wearing my slide shoes everywhere because that's what's comfortable, and that's what I can get my feet into comfortably. And you know what? People just have to be okay with it. I wore them to work. I wore them out and about. Like, people just have to be okay with it, because it's hard, and shoes are tight. They are like it the shoes have definitely been a struggle, and that was something that I was not expecting, something that people really don't talk about. And we are just straight up eyeballing these hole punches right now. We will deal with the consequences later. Speaking of, I need to get my yarn ready so we can start to put this little thing together. Compression socks, regular socks. Now, I will say a lot of your like holiday fuzzy socks do serve the purpose of a compression sock, but the shoes were really, really a big deal for me. And I will be interested to see if I can wear my regular shoes after, or if I'm going to have to go out and buy all new shoes. TBD. The other thing that people don't really talk about is maternity underwear. And there is apparently this online debate about whether you should do under the bump or over the bump. I bought some of each, tried them both. I like them both for different reasons. The over the bump ones that I actually got from Shein, and, you know, no judge, but they are very thin. So depending again on your preference, that could make people uncomfortable. Now, the under the bump ones I actually got from Babylist, a 5-pack, I think. Super comfortable. Love the fit of them. Love the cut of them. So I have both, and I like both for different reasons. I say try both and see what your preference is. Because again, that's something that people don't really talk about, but is something that, you know, it's makes sense that your regular underwear are not going to fit. As your belly gets bigger, as your waist gets a little bit bigger, as your hips get bigger. I have had to throw some of my underwear away because the elastic got so stretched out. So that was something that was kind of unexpected. And also, underwear being comfortable is a huge thing. I would come home from work some days, and if I was not wearing maternity underwear or some of my like seamless ones, like Victoria's Secret has really nice seamless underwear. I got some from another boutique that were really nice, but I would have like indentations in my skin, and it's very uncomfortable. So keep that in mind as well, and add that to your I'm newly pregnant list of things, because that was something. I have to get my scissors. Again, that was kind of unexpected for me, but ended up being a major, major necessity. And Yeah. Okay, to not mess up what we've already done, I'm going to walk back around this way. So, underwear, socks, bras we're going to talk a little bit about. Because, obviously, when you're pregnant, naturally, like, your breasts get bigger. My breasts, I grew a cup size really, really early. So, when you're thinking about... Sure, let's go with this. When you're thinking about... And we're going to need 3 pieces because some of our cards are going to need 3 hole punches. When thinking about shopping for bras, I went up a cup size pretty early. I didn't immediately go for the nursing bra, but some people do. But you don't have to. You could wait. You could register for nursing bras. Or again, order them Black Friday. Order them on Amazon. As soon as you start putting pregnancy stuff in your algorithm, I swear to you, you'll get ads pretty much every day about, all these different nursing bras and how great they are, and this one's seamless, this one's da-da-da-da. And I did try some of them, not gonna lie. But I also got one from Walmart that I think I like a little bit better. So try them out, but also just because it's viral and on your algorithm doesn't mean it's the best one out there. So take all that into consideration too, but you don't have to go to nursing bras right away. Now, if you are somebody who wants to get used to them, you want to wash them, you want to see how they feel, etc., then by all means. But I started wearing nursing bras probably maybe a month or so ago, and I have recently started, they'll talk about in your breastfeeding class and all of these things about hand expression and, preparing your body for breastfeeding. And so as I was trying to do those things, then having the nursing bra on was good practice for that. But again, don't feel like you have to buy a nursing bra. Some women do not. Some women just continue to wear their regular bras the whole time, and they just, unbuckle it or whatever. The beauty of a nursing bra is obviously that it would have the clasp or something that you can just take the cup down for easy access to nursing. But if you're bottle feeding, you don't have to worry about that. So get something that's comfortable, easy to wash. And I chose this white yarn, but it's the kind that frays, so this is going to be really fun. But it's fine. We'll get as many as we can. And then if we have to cut it, we have to cut it. All right. So we've talked about gestational diabetes. We talked about undergarments. We've talked about, I want to talk a little bit about, we've talked about symptoms, which you can do your own research on that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you about every single symptom that I had because every pregnancy is different. Every body is different. Every woman is different. So my experience is my experience. And that goes the same with even like doing maternity photos or something like that. Like, my experience is my experience. So just because I did something doesn't mean that you have to do it. And just because I bought one thing doesn't mean you have to buy it. All the same. But I was going to go somewhere else. I want to talk about, my strings are all going to get confused. I just know it. Okay, there we go. Got that started now. I want to talk about early labor, because this is also something that I feel is very misconstrued, especially in the media. You see the movies, the woman's water breaks, and it's this huge dramatic thing, and that is not reality, as we are coming to discover. So that has not been the experience. So 2 weeks ago, I went to a regular appointment and my doctor wanted to do a cervical check, which is something that you can get starting at 36 weeks. You can ask for it. I opted not to get one at my 36-week appointment, mostly because I had heard kind of some horror stories about how they are not comfortable. And once you go into the hospital, you get them very, very regularly. So why subject yourself to more of them if you don't have to, was kind of the logic. So I I opted out of the 36-week one. 37 weeks rolls around, doctor wants to do a cervical check, fine. At my cervical check, she told me that I was 1 centimeter dilated and 70% effaced. Now, if you know anything about labor and delivery, you know that the goal is to be 10 centimeters dilated and 100% effaced. So I am 10% dilated and 70% effaced. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like things are starting, things are happening. This is great. And while that is true, it is also true that things can happen at a very slow rate of progress. So jump forward 2 weeks. And yes, I did not have a cervical check at my 38-week appointment, but I did have one at my 40th week appointment. So I had one at 37, skipped 38, or I had one at 37, skipped 38, and then had one at 40. And in the 2 weeks since those appointments, I had progressed 2 centimeters. Still 70% effaced. So we're progressing in one direction, not so much in the other. But what I want to focus on in this video, and with the last little bit of time that I'm going to take from you guys, because this video is getting kind of long, is that once dilating starts, at least I, like in my body and in my experience, I have not been able to tell one thing from the next. I have not been able to tell if I'm dilating. I have not been able to tell if I'm thinning. I have not been able to do any of that. Now, if that's just me, then maybe that's just me. But I have had what I would consider false labor, early labor, whatever term you are familiar with, for literally a week. So I will have like 1 or 2 low to medium contractions a night or a day, lasting anywhere from a few seconds to several minutes, and then nothing. So I say this to tell you that what you see in the movies and what you read about in all of your books is not real life. And that this card is going to be very hard because this has like a holographic. Yeah, so we're just probably going to have to, I don't know, maybe put this one on the back or something. So it's not going to cut through. But I guess this is twofold. Like, don't be frustrated when you think that something is happening and it's not. Because I think we are trained to believe that once labor starts, like, oh, you're in labor, you have to go to the hospital. Also not true. Labor at home or wherever you feel comfortable until you are, having contractions that are 3 to 5 minutes apart, lasting a minute for an hour. That's the guidance that we've been given. It's the guidance we were given at the hospital when we went for our tour, and it's the guidance that we've received from my medical team. But also, I think I was expecting, because I was already dilated and because I was already starting to thin, I think I was expecting these contractions to feel like really painful, because everybody says how painful labor and delivery is. It's the worst pain you'll ever feel, but it has the biggest reward, right? It's only pain with a purpose. And mine so far has felt less than / equivalent to a menstrual cramp. It's been lasting for a week and doesn't really, like, I haven't really. Did I stay home from work because I was kind of nervous that it was going to escalate? Yes. Because again, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, once I start having contractions, I need to start timing them, and then they're going to just get worse. And I haven't had that experience. And I think that's something that is contrary to what a lot of women have. And so I wanted to share that in this video because I have had to, like, I asked my doctor, I asked the nurses, like, I've had to kind of go back to the drawing board, for lack of a better word, and be like, what is this? Like, am I in labor? Am I dilating? Like, what is happening? And so, yeah, that's been my experience. I have had false labor / I guess you could say early labor for literally a week with not that progress has not been made. It has. Progress has definitely been made. But it hasn't been that dramatic, like, oh, this is it. It's time to go. And like I was expecting, I guess. And that's something that I feel like people don't talk about. So I wanted to bring it up in this video that labor, like, you can be in false labor for a long time. You can be in early labor for a long time. And it doesn't just start and then escalate very quickly. I think for some women it does. So they are, they get to have that experience. For me, that has not been my experience. So I wanted to share my experience with all of you. So if it happens to you, you aren't on the other end like me saying, oh, well, like, I felt a little bit like the girl who cried labor because I'm like, oh, I'm having a contraction. Oh, I'm having a contraction. And then nothing. Or, you know what I'm saying? So, just trust your gut. If something feels off, obviously call your doctor, go to the hospital. But if you are able to breathe through it, if you are able to walk and talk, maybe stay at home and wait until they get a little bit closer. Or, like, at this point, I'm not even timing them unless they are more intense than a menstrual cramp. And again, that's not to say that I'm not progressing, but I'm not going to go to the hospital with this. So I'm trying to get as far as we can. We're hoping that by the time we go to the hospital, we're like 4 centimeters, maybe 80 to 90% effaced. But we'll see, because it's very hard to tell what's happening. And also the other thing I want to say is that for me, like I said, some of them have felt like a little bit more intense menstrual cramp. Others have felt like a menstrual cramp. Others have felt like I just have to really go to the bathroom really bad. And so you have cramping from that too, especially if you suffer from constipation. You're going to have, I like to call them like poop pains, like literally where your intestine is like, get out of me right now. And I've had some of those, and those have been like my most intense, like, contractions. But I'm like, it wasn't a contraction. I just had to go to the bathroom. So yeah, these are all things that I feel like nobody talks about, and you're just expected to kind of ride it out and either go to the hospital or whatever. And I feel like there is this phenomenon of women going to the hospital thinking that they're in labor, and they get sent home because they're in early labor. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if I would have done that, I would have been sent home like 6 times by now. So trust your gut, lean on your partner, have them read, like, read the books. Like, another thing is similar thing, talking about like the early labor process. So at my last appointment, which was on Monday, I did have my doctor do a membrane sweep, which is offered once you get, usually they don't offer it until you're past due because it can cause labor to start and it can cause things to kind of escalate. So she asked me if I wanted it. I said yes. I do regret it because I was not feeling well afterwards. But I did get it. And one of the side effects of, well, there's a few side effects of the membrane sweep. One is that it can sometimes cause the water bag to break because they are separating the amniotic sac from the uterine wall. So then it can cause the water bag to rupture, but it can also cause the release of the mucus plug, which does indicate that labor could happen days or, hours or days from the release of the mucus plug. Now, when you read about the mucus plug and you read about the quote unquote bloody show, as it's sometimes called, you are led to believe that it is a one-time thing, that it is we're going to, you're going to go to the bathroom, you're going to wipe, there's going to be some mucus there, it's going to be brown, maybe possibly pinkish, reddish, not bright red like period blood. If it's bright red, you need to go to the hospital. But it's going to be like I said, maybe pink, maybe brown, and it's just you're gonna see it when you wipe, you're gonna see it maybe in the toilet. Well, that happened and lasted for a solid day. Every time I went to the bathroom, I was having mucus release. And that kind of freaked me out because I thought that it was just a one and done thing. So I thought that once I got that one wipe of toilet paper with that mucus on it, I was like, oh, there it is. Oh, there's my bloody show. There's my mucus plug. And nope. It can actually persist for 24 hours after the membrane sweep and can actually continue further as the cervix continues to dilate and thin. So that's something else that I had to look up for myself because nobody talks about it. So these are all things that I have genuinely experienced that I had to look up. I had to seek out other information. I had to call my doctor about because they happened to me and my experience was different than what I had read, what I had learned in the birthing class, and all that. So, like I said, if you feel off, call your doctor. But know that my experience is my experience, your experience will be your experience. And just because my bloody show lasted for a whole day doesn't mean yours will. But if it does, it's also completely normal. Because as your cervix continues to dilate and thin, then the rest of it just kind of takes its time. So I'm taking it as a sign that maybe things are progressing still. And yeah. Other than that, that's all we can do. All right, the last thing I think I want to talk about is Dopplers, at-home Dopplers. I was gifted one by a friend of mine. She said she used hers all the time. I started using it as soon as I got it. At that point, I was about 10, 11, maybe 12 weeks along. I used it a couple of times. The first time I had a hard time getting a heartbeat. The second time I used it, I got a heartbeat that was very low for, again, based on the research, based on my appointments that I had so far, the reading that I got on the at-home Doppler was significantly lower than what I had, what my baby's heartbeat had been. And I instantly got freaked out. If you are somebody who has any kind of anxiety, or if, like me, who your journey to pregnancy was difficult, and therefore you're kind of an overanalyzer who overanalyzes everything, skip the Doppler. Because the Doppler sent me into a full-on panic attack, and we were in, I wouldn't, full-on panic attack is a rough exaggeration, but I definitely was concerned and I was upset, and I was in Florida, so there really wasn't anything I could do about it. And that was before I could feel baby, so I couldn't reassure myself with a kick count or anything like that. So in my next pregnancy, if there is another pregnancy, I most likely will not be investing in the Doppler. I used it one time, and then after that one reading that I got, and after I freaked myself out, I said, yep, we're done with this. And I literally haven't taken it out of the box since. I'm glad that I was gifted it instead of buying it, because I would have been really upset. But if you are a person who like gets overwrought about the stuff like that and overanalyzes, skip it. It's not worth it. And I've heard similar things about the owlet sock, which is why I did not register for the owlet sock. I do not intend to get the owlet sock, because I've heard the same thing, that if you have anxiety of any kind, those devices can make it worse. And actually my doctor told me that she, as an OB, doesn't actually recommend people using at-home Dopplers, because if you're not trained on where a baby's heartbeat should be found, then you're not going to be able to find it on your own, right? Like, I'm not an OBGYN, so I don't know where a baby should be located at any given point in time. So, and oftentimes, and she told me that the heartbeat that I most likely got was my own, because I didn't know where baby was located. So did I do something wrong in using the monitor, the Doppler? No. I just think I'm not an OBGYN, and therefore I didn't know what I was doing and freaked myself out for nothing. And pregnancy is no place for extra anxieties, because there are so many things. Like, you know, it should be a time of joy, bliss. Like, we don't want to weigh ourselves down with thinking of the things that could go wrong or things that are going wrong or whatever. So just trust the process. Trust, like, all you can do is trust in God. Trust, like I said, trust in your body, and trust your doctor or your midwife or your doula or whomever you're working with. And they're the experts. Let them be the experts. And so I wanted to talk about that, because I know that's a hot thing right now, is at-home Dopplers. And for some women, it's the exact thing they need. But for me, it caused too much. And so we used it one time, or we used it twice, and we said, okay, we're done with this. And you have to make decisions like that sometimes for yourself. Or like I said, let your partner make that decision for you. My husband was like, okay, you're not using that anymore. This is causing too much anxiety. Like, I don't want you to use that anymore. There's no reason to worry. And same with kick counts. You know, you'll get to know your baby as they grow. You'll get to know their active windows, when they're asleep, when they're awake. And unless you, like, I, up till this point, have not counted my daughter's kicks. Some people do. It was not my thing. Wasn't for me. And on a similar wavelength, I just felt that it was something that I knew I would probably obsess a bit over, and I felt it wasn't necessary to obsess over, so I didn't. I chose to just we went to every appointment. They would ask me if her movements were normal or what I was used to feeling, and the answer was yes. And so we just left it at that. And as long as your baby is moving, like, and you know that they're awake, as long as they're moving 6 to 10 times an hour, that's the guidance that I've been given. As long as they're moving that much, you're all right. I have had to do a kick count a couple of times here in the last month or so, but again, a lot of that was my own anxieties. And when we went to do our non-stress test, we found out that everything was fine. I think she was just asleep at a time that she didn't normally sleep. And I got myself a little bit worked up thinking that something was wrong, when everything was fine and she was fine. So, that's another thing that if you want to actually count, a lot of pregnancy tracker apps will have a kick counter on there for you. I never counted. I just would kind of keep track of if I felt that she was, I just kind of noticed when she was awake more when she was asleep. And if there was a time where she was a little bit more quiet, then, I used some of the tricks to get her to wake up, but I tried not to, again, I just didn't want to get into this habit of obsessing over stuff because we stressed so much getting here that I wanted to enjoy the process without it being this totally stressful thing. So again, that's my experience. That's my journey. Might not be the same for you. So do what you need to do. If counting your kicks and using a Doppler is what works for you, then do it. Because as I said, every body is different. Every pregnancy is different. And don't let my experience cloud you or force you, make you feel like you're doing something wrong or whatever. So I think that's all for this video. I just wanted to touch base with my little community on here about some things, like I said, that people don't talk about when I feel like people don't talk about, more like the taboo things of pregnancy. And actually that brings me to one more thing. Actually, two more things. I want to talk a little bit, just quickly, about foods, aversions, cravings, and what have you. There's a lot of debate around eating things like tuna, deli meat, soft cheeses, all of that while pregnant. And as long as you are not making that your sole source of nutrition, there is nothing wrong with having a deli meat sandwich throughout your pregnancy. I have had them. I've warmed it up. I've had them cold. I have, had them on a salad, had them in a sub. But again, I had other things with that in my meal. That wasn't my whole meal. And I tried to only have that, if that was my lunch, then I tried to have something of a little bit more sustenance for dinner. Or if you warm it up, the only reason they tell you to avoid deli meat is because of the fear of listeria, but you can catch listeria literally from lettuce. So do your research, and if somebody tells you, oh, you shouldn't be eating that, unless you have a doctor's recommendation to avoid something, then there's no reason to avoid it. And also, my doctor cleared hot dogs. She cleared deli meat. She cleared tuna. Again, it's all about moderation and in small quantities. So again, do your research. I really highly recommend the book Real Food for Pregnancy. I got a lot of valuable information from that, and it really educated me on what was safe and not safe. And even things like sushi, soft cheeses, those are all also, as long as you're selective about the fish itself that you're using, all of that can also be safe and enjoyed in moderation. Everything is fine in moderation, except for smoking and drinking. Those are the two things that definitely you want to stick to the recommendations there. But eating, and then the other thing that is really taboo is the S word, sex. During pregnancy, a lot of women report higher libidos during pregnancy because of the hormones. That has also not been my experience. And so I wanted to talk about that just briefly, not with a lot of details, obviously, in this video, because I really felt that I was like, oh, something's wrong with me. And it's easy to feel that way when you hear all this stuff about, all these couples continuing with their lovemaking and continuing with that part of their intimate journey, even during pregnancy. And for me, I did not have that experience. I didn't have that spike at all. I would say, I wouldn't say at all. The first trimester was okay, like it was pretty normal. But then second and third, no urge at all. No crave for it. No increase at all. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that is also normal. And it is completely fine to not feel, and not that I don't feel attracted to my husband, not that I don't feel love for my husband, not that I don't feel closer to my husband, that we're bonded. Like, the intimacy emotionally is still there. It's just physically, I just didn't have any of the urges. And I don't know if part of that is just that I actually love my bump, and I have been really bonding with baby in the bump. I think part of it is a little bit my husband as well. He's, he just was like, not really keen on the whole, like, trying to have sex around the belly and all of that. And it's like, we're kind of fine with it, right? So that's another thing that, again, kind of taboo. Nobody really talks about. But when you read something about, oh yeah, it's totally safe, totally normal, totally healthy to keep doing that during pregnancy, and then you feel like you don't have any urges, or you feel like your husband maybe doesn't have the same urge, there are lots of reasons for that, and it is all okay. Now, will we maybe have a harder time getting back into the normal swing of that and the normal routine of that? Absolutely. We've already talked about that. So that's, for you guys as a couple to navigate. So I think after everything that we've said in this video, I think that is it. And like I said, I just wanted to share some of the things that have come up for me, things that differ from what I've read, what's been told to me, other people's experiences, because I think it's very common to talk to people who have been moms before. You get a lot of solicited or unsolicited advice from people, and you don't want to be rude, so you take all the advice, but then as you go through this journey, you are met with your own experiences. And I wanted to just plop everything into a video about things that have been different for me from what I've read or that have been said to me, and things that I've kind of had to come to terms with on my own, like I said, either by calling my doctor, doing my own research, whatever, things that made me feel a little bit down on myself, or like that something wasn't right, something was off, things that are completely normal. So I hope this video helped someone, and I hope that you got a little craft idea. We still have a decent stack of cards to hole punch, so I don't even know if we're going to get it all done today. I'm probably going to stop, probably finish it up tomorrow, but thanks for hanging out with me in this video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and like I said at the beginning, if you're a first-time mom, like this so other first-time moms can find each other. But if you are somebody who is already a mom, or maybe has had some of this same experience, drop your experience in your comments down below so that way other people can see them and we can all glean the advice. Because like I said, when I was building my registry and starting out on this journey, I watched a lot of videos like this of real moms just talking and putting their experiences out there. And in this digital age that we live in, sometimes it's nice just to hear somebody that has the same experience as you. So that's what this video is intended to be. It's not to shame, not to put you down, not to make you feel worse. It's just to kind of share, these are the things that in my pregnancy have happened to me that I didn't know, wasn't expecting, kind of came out of nowhere, and here we are. So we're almost to the end of this journey. It has been great, and I've loved filming all this content. Coming up in the channel, we're going to do some, I'm going to do like a registry, things I registered for that maybe I wish I didn't, things that I didn't register for that I wish I did, product reviews, things that we use on a daily basis, what to put on your registry from a new mom, things like that. So you can look forward to all of that coming in the channel in the coming months. And we're going to have a lot of mom content on here, but we're still going to keep going with the regular book content, movie content, all those things. So that's it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me tonight. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, stay warm, stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.